What's up everybody, Maik Wiedenbach here, Wednesday afternoon, giving tips, because we can only give tips. Today we're talking about protein bars, okay? Protein bars are to be found everywhere these days, right? Even gas stations, whatever, as the healthy snack. But are they really? Let's go to the videotape, my videotape, that is. So, disclaimer, it is hard to make a good protein bar. It just is. You know why? Because protein powder sucks to bake with. Okay, it's difficult. It goes dry, it goes bitter, it gets chalky really quickly. So anybody who's ever tried it will know that's a tricky substance to handle. So for instance, when I was swimming, I made my own protein bars. But here's how I did it. I used a base of like a regular brownie mix. Then I added protein powder. Then I added Nesquik. Then I added chocolate chip chips. Then I added almond butter and then eggs. And then I baked it. That tasted awesome. But it was insanely high caloric. But back then, my main goal was to get the calories in, not have an actual protein bar per se. So in my very rudimentary research, I divided protein bars into 3 groups. Group A is, we are giving you 20 to 30 grams of protein, but we're loading it with carbs and fats and some chemicals. Group B is, we're giving you 20 grams or 25, lower in the carb, lower in the fat count, but we're adding a chemistry lab to make it taste good. And then there is group C, which is a rather natural bar with clean ingredients. The problem is that the protein count drops compared to what they're offering in terms of carbs and fats. So let's go through them. So you have something like this, right? 30 grams of protein. You're like, sweet. Yeah, it is sweet because you're eating 27 grams of sugars and 16 grams of fat. So you might as well take a good chunk of Haagen-Dazs milk, put in a blender and have fun with it, right? The other thing is also that if you eat this bar, you're eating 16 grams of sugar alcohols. Okay, so what? Well, sugar alcohols, they can have a laxative effect of you and bloat you, and generally not a good idea to consume. Furthermore, if you just look at the pure ingredient list, how long that is, you're just eating a lot of chemicals. So that's an issue. Then you have something like this, similar profile, but I want to point out 2 things. So it's very small, but so it says here, soy protein isolate. If that's the first or any protein on your protein bar, run for the hills. Soy protein isolate is being made by washing soybeans basically in a mix of gasoline and a combustible explosive. And then you eat it. So the reason the soy protein is being used because the shelf life is long, it doesn't get hard, so the bars last longer. The other thing is this has tapioca starch, which isn't the end of the world, but it's just a very cheap carbohydrate, and you being ripped off. So that's something to look out for. Another thing is, not to harp on this bar, but it just has it all. It has fractionated palm kernel oil, which is a saturated fat to increase the shelf life, and it's also something that you should not consume. Nitroglycerin, that is used to keep the bar soft, but it will dehydrate you and can have an impact on over digestion. Then this one is aptly called the candy bar. I couldn't have said it better myself, because again, you're taking in some 22 grams of carbs for 20 grams of protein. But what really got to me is that it lists gelatin as a protein source. Okay, so what? Humans, or people in general, cannot use gelatin as a protein, even though it is an animal product. Case in point, my beloved gummy bears, which are obviously made, I ripped this because I ate some, from gelatin, but they have 0 protein. Ditto for Jello and all these things. The human body, so the biological availability of gelatin or collagen is pretty much 0. So you will not use it. So you're being ripped off. Then you have another bar like this one. Protein 20 grams, sugars 27. I mean, again, you might as well just get candy and a glass of milk or so. And another thing that, yes, so whenever it says protein blend, run for the hills. Because that just means we bought a bunch of stuff, but we don't want to tell you, and we're just throwing it all there together. So those are all those bars. Other things to look out for would be, like I said, sugar alcohol, net carbs, which is sort of a play along the FDA guidelines where you're having 20 grams of carbs, but some of them are sugar alcohols, so we're not listing them as carbohydrates, but they will count. So you're still getting those 4 calories per gram. It's just for diabetics, they don't raise the blood sugar. Now we have group B, which is, so you're having, you see here the net carbs. That's also a bit of an iffy term. But you're looking at 5 grams of fat, 20 grams of protein, and then about 15 grams of carbohydrates, even though they only list 5, which is a bit obnoxious. But the point being is that that's relatively high protein. I mean, this is chicken breast, essentially 20 grams, right? And only 5 grams of fat, so you're like, no, it's not so bad. The issue is something has to make it taste good. So you take the fat out, you take the carbs out, what's left? Chemicals, right? So then you're looking at inulin to flavor it, and then what else did I have here? Yeah, so erythritol and all kinds of sweeteners that can upset the stomach. However, if you don't eat the whole box but only 1 or 2, you'll be probably fine. The same goes for this bar, 20 grams of protein and very little else. So that would be the group that, yes, I'm getting a good amount of protein, but I'm also getting a lot of chemicals. The choice is yours. And then there's this group, which is, from what I found, relatively clean. So it says, egg whites, pecans, you can see that here, right? The issue is that you're eating more of a, shall we say, carb and fat bar with some protein. So here, you're looking at 10 grams of fat, 22 carbs, and 12 protein. So somebody on a diet who might only have 100 grams of carbs or so available for the day, and you're blowing through 22 in such a little snack, that's probably not beneficial, But, if you have kids, for instance, so that would be relatively clean. Same with this one. It's actually one my daughter likes. But, you're looking at 31 grams of carbohydrates in a very small bar. But it's dates, it's cashew butter, milk protein, unsweetened chocolate, and organic cocoa. So in terms of like the composition, it's a very clean bar. But as a bodybuilder, I wouldn't waste 31 grams of carbs to eat 12 grams of protein. It just doesn't make any sense. So this one, I actually found, which is basically, you can say glorified beef jerky, so to speak. It's actually really good. So it's like, I know now all the vegans gonna say, oh, I can eat this. I didn't say I'm gonna find the best vegan protein, I'm gonna find the best protein bar. So that is actually a good choice, because it's pretty much carb-free. So then you have the option to like have a piece of whole wheat bread or so with it, and then actually make a decent meal out of it. So if you're stuck at the airport, this is all candy. Just don't bother. This is okay, and consuming these things once in a while will not do anything bad to you, right? This one is a good choice, but the macronutrient profile might not be so great. In closing, I would like to say that protein bars are food, and so are triple fried cheeseburgers. That doesn't mean you should eat them all the time. So what I would suggest is, like, if you're really in a pinch, you know your choices. And other than that, like I always tell my clients and anybody who wants to listen, real food always wins. There's just no two ways about it. Maik out.